you need, yeah. Man, I got it, wow. What you say, hey? We about it, get the cream, yeah. Why you slacking? Why you talking all the top, boy, you capping? What you need, hey? Yeah, I got it, with the team, yeah. We about it, wow. Get the cream, yeah. Why you slacking? Why you talking all the top, boy, you capping?
Yeah, why you capping? Why you capping, no? Feel like a rubber band, I've been snapping, no. Yeah, I've been up here with my team, so you know this what I mean. We've been going up like NASA, bro.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Dane from NYYU. We'd like to welcome you to the 2024 Yankees Draft Review Show with John Brophy. John, how you doing today, bud?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Jane?
I'm not doing too bad. So we got into this draft, and I had the pleasure of working with you for really the first time, and it was a wonderful experience. And we were kind of chatting about what we liked backstage and what we didn't like from the draft and all that. What did you see from this draft that you really liked?
I mean, like, there's a couple guys, and we were talking about this before. There's a couple guys.
Right.
It's really the back half of the draft that really impressed me. Like just going after JUCO kids, and then there's the one prep kid that we'll talk about at the end, and like some of the smaller colleges. And there's a lot of that stuff that like going after that is kind of the non-standard Yankees. And then in the top half of the draft, they really stuck with a lot of SEC schools.
They did. And I think one thing you saw them go with is they went with the mold of a pitcher that they know that they can draft, develop, and improve.
Yeah.
We've seen them draft these bigger body guys that have premium stuff, premium velocity, but kind of lack shape and command. And we saw that throughout, especially the first 6 or 7 picks of this draft.
Yeah, and a lot of it is, like you mentioned, a lot of it is a good fastball, good slider, good changeup, and it's kind of a cookie cutter thing that the Yankees like to draft and develop and acquire in other means, through trades and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's just a lot of the same stuff, kind of over and over again. And like we were talking, like, and it was kind of social media was kind of going crazy about it. Like, what are the Yankees doing?
Right.
But when you dig into the deep part of who they drafted and the kind of a player that they went after, it's a typical Yankees draft candidate kind of a thing.
Right. One thing that I noticed is they keep going back to schools where they have relationships. Vanderbilt being a big one, Texas Tech, LSU. They keep going back to those schools. It's kind of like Cashman goes back to the same GMs and trades.
Yeah, exactly.
They have schools that they're comfortable with, and they drafted those guys heavy. But moving into the first round, we had Ben Hess, which was a little bit of a surprise because he was ranked in the mid 40s in the draft class by MLB Pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball America had him a little higher at 21. What did you think of that pick?
Kind of. I mean, again, it's the same thing. It's the four-seamer, mid upper 90s. But the thing that really impressed me was because I was spending a lot of time kind of going into these picks and trying to kind of get into the mind of the Yankees, so to speak. And one of the interviews that I watched was how he spoke and how he likes to model his makeup, I guess, against Lance Lynn.
Right.
Which to me was, I mean, you can't go wrong with a pitcher like that.
No. He's a very similar body size to Lynn, very similar velocity. He doesn't have the 3 fastballs like Lynn yet, but that is something that he could develop down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of these guys they're still young enough that the Yankees can kind of mold them, however they see fit.
One of the big things that we knew with Hess is he was a big injury risk. He had a stress fracture in his back when he was in high school. There's some concerns about injuries, and we're kind of hoping this is an underslot deal that they can save money on to spend later in the rounds, especially in the second part of the draft that we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of in the Clark Schmidt mold almost.
Yeah, and I mean, Schmidt was the last one that the last pitcher that the Yankees drafted first round. So, I mean, if they can get that, Schmidt has surprised plenty of people this year, year and change, I guess you can say, into the kind of quality you could expect, unfortunately, until he went down with injury. But I mean, heck, if we can get a number 3 or 4, Pipeline has him as a number 2 starter. I don't,
Right.
with the way that the Yankees are, I mean, we know how reluctant they are to promote farm kids.
Right.
I don't know if they would make him a number 2, but I mean, I'd be happy with a number 3 or 4 starter if
Absolutely.
that's a ceiling.
Yeah, I would be too. And we know that they send them all down to the gas stations and put them in motion capture suits, and they
Yeah,
start designing pitches, and their off-speed pitches and the shapes of their pitches can change a great deal by the time we see them this time next year. So we
yeah,
really don't know about that. But as far as stuff and ceiling, this guy fits right in for what the Yankees go for.
yeah, absolutely.
Now, moving into the second round was a pick that I really, really liked, was Bryce Cunningham.
Yeah.
Out of Vanderbilt? Good
Again,
fastball.
it's the typical kind of Vanderbilt. I mean, we're seeing Spencer Jones and George Lombard. I mean, the first 2 rounds have been kind of Vanderbilt, actually since 2021 because Volpe was committed to Vanderbilt as well. So, like you said,
Right.
they're going back to the same schools that they're friendly with, I guess you could say.
Big kid, 6'5", gets up to 97, sits more like 94, 95, and it's supposed to have the best changeup in the draft.
Yeah, and if he has a plus slider, because that's kind of their cookie cutter thing is go with that slider. And if I remember correctly, now my memory may be failing me, but that's kind of what Will Warren was drafted from, is that slider, going after that slider,
Right.
and that's really been his out pitch past couple of
Yeah,
years.
it
So
has been.
I don't know, I mean, obviously we don't know what the Yankees intend on doing with any of these guys,
Right.
but I mean, if he's a reliever, I mean, holy cow, I can't wait to see a slider and a plus changeup with an average 20-inch horizontal break. I mean, that's going to be a lot of fun for me to watch next year. And that's
Absolutely.
that's why I have this Tarpons hat on, because a lot of these guys I'll be seeing either in FCL or in the Tarpons within the next year or so. Not
Absolutely. Another thing about his changeup that I really liked was the 53% whiff rate.
Yeah,
That's reminiscent of Drew Thorpe.
yeah, and that fastball, as I mentioned in the article, the fastball has above average command, which from what I've seen out of a lot of the kids the past year and change, 2 years, that I've been doing this down here and seeing all the draft kids come out of the draft. Um, Command isn't really a strong suit with a lot of these guys. So
No,
if you can see above average command and 2/3 of the pitches aren't going to the backstop, I mean, I can't complain about that because I don't need to change the shorts by the third inning.
now, moving into the third round, they went back to another school that they do a lot of business with,
Yeah.
LSU, with Thatcher Hurd. What did you think about that pick?
I'm a little worried about this one, because as I was digging up stuff for Hurd to write up in the write up, I just kept finding injury after injury after injury. Like he I don't know if this was him or if this was another guy. I ran into a lot of injuries, but he had this is the one where he had the stress fracture in the back, I think.
There was two guys that had it,
Yeah, okay. Maybe
Hess
there's
and this kid.
um Yeah, so this one with Hurd, he has a fastball that has a lot of swing and miss. I didn't read anything about command, so that would of course be the concern. What's
Right.
the command like? But I mean, if he's coming out of LSU, again, another school that the Yankees know, and we kind of know what to expect out of them. Um, a, a fast fastball, I guess you could say, obviously, because it's not like an Nestor Cortez kind of fastball.
Right.
93 to 96 hits 98. He was Collegiate Baseball National Player of the Week,
Mm-hmm.
March 2023. The K through 9 was really what stuck out to me out of everything with the 11.45. Anything over 10 is considered elite. So, if we can get a high K through 9, because these numbers don't always translate to the pros, and that's kind of the one
Right.
thing that I want to make sure that I express to the audience. We can be seeing numbers like 11 and a half K through 9 or a 4 ERA or whatever, and then they get to full season Tampa and then they have trouble getting guys out. That's not
Right.
necessarily a problem with the pitcher. It's just they have trouble adjusting to the level.
Right. And they're facing the better competition than they ever have before.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's some thoughts that he might end up a setup or a reliever type. Slider being his best pitch. The control's about a 55 grade. Um, it wasn't a bad. Oh, I'm looking at Gage. I'm sorry.
I think that's what I was
Wrong
doing
kid.
too.
Wrong kid. But moving into the fourth round, Gage Ziehl from Miami. He was their Friday night starter for the last 2 years. That's their number one. I was kind of surprised by this pick.
I'm only chuckling because my cat's making a racket behind me. So if you hear
Oh,
anything, it's my cat trying to make a commotion behind me. Yeah, Ziehl, I don't know what to make of Ziehl because it was one of those surprise picks because they don't really go after anybody out of Miami.
no,
Um,
I was very surprised by this pick, and I'm not that big of a fan of it.
I mean, I kind of like it because he has a four seam fastball, which, if you can get a four seam right and you get that late rise, that's really, really deceptive to hitters. And to me, a good four seamer is almost as deceptive as a good slider, just
Yeah.
because, the batter sees the fastball coming and then at the last second, the ball just kind of goes up. Um, the report had a cutter like slider.
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't know what to make of that. Like, I think I have to see that in person because there's not a ton of video on him.
There's not. I looked, but again, we know that the Yankees change pitch shapes very, very well.
Yeah,
So if they have a feel to spin the ball or have a feel for a slider, they can develop that and work on that. I think this is a project pick for me.
exactly. Yeah, this is one of those special projects that they like getting.
And moving into the fifth round, this is another special project, but this is somebody I'm really high on.
Yeah, I liked everything that I read up about Carter.
Yeah, he's been up to 103, sits, high 90s. That kind of fastball. We've seen the kid from the Oakland Athletics just dominate with that kind of velocity. This kid's going to be a setup closer type. Needs some work on his secondary stuff. Obviously, needs some work on the control, but
Yeah.
you can't teach that kind of velocity.
Well, and then the injury concern there, of course, is that if he hits upper 90s to triple digits, it's kind of like how careful the Pirates are with Paul Skeens because he's the same kind of a pitcher where he has those high velos. And I mean, like there was in the news not too long ago when he had that no hitter going in and they pulled him. They got to watch the innings because you never know what's going to happen. But the control issues are a concern because his K39 is a little low, and his BB39 is kind of high as over 7.
Right.
So I mean, I think you're right, and this is going to be a special project kind of thing for them as well.
Yeah,
But
it's somebody they send to Sam Breen and say, do what you can with it.
yeah, but Vanderbilt is again, it's one of those schools the kind of not just the kind of pitcher you're going to get, but the kind of person you're going to get. You're going to get the
Right.
true Yankee style kind of a player where they know how to represent the brand well.
Yes, they do. And all those kids come out with high morals, high background, and that's why they keep going back to those kids that keep getting selected by Vanderbilt, the Lombards, the Volpes, the Joneses.
Exactly, yeah.
But in the sixth round, they went back to LSU again and got Griffin Herring. And this is the first lefty they took.
I think this is so far, I think this is the best pick of the draft, the sixth round,
Absolutely.
because if nothing else, they don't have a lot of depth in the lefty pitchers. Not
Correct.
There's not a ton of depth. Like I mean, you see how many righties they drafted. There's not a lot of lefties that they drafted.
No, and they don't have very many lefties in the system,
Yeah,
period. I mean, it's very, very thin. But I think that this is a pick that could have upside, big, big upside. Could be your Chase Hampton of this draft or something like that.
yeah. I would think if he's more slider changeup,
Uh-huh.
that he's going to be, and I wrote that he was used mostly as a reliever, which would make sense to me. Low 90s fastball is probably going to be his number two pitch, I would think. Slider would be his go-to whiff pitch, out pitch kind of thing, and then changeup would be just kind of mix things up.
Yeah. And
And
then
a 1.79 ERA, you can't say no to that.
no, you can't. And hopefully they can develop him because, like we've been talking about, they're short on left-hand pitching. And whether he ends up in the bullpen or he ends up as a starter, there's a use for that. Now, moving into the 7th round, Wyatt Parliament for Virginia Tech. What did you think of that pick? The ERA is ugly,
Yeah, but the K through 9 is over 12. So it's
right?
kind of one of those you can't necessarily read the stat line. And I think this is kind of one of those wait and see kind of picks.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Yankees, they do pretty well around this part of the draft, the 6 through 12 rounds. They've tended to do pretty well.
Yeah,
Um,
your Will Warrens, your Ben Rices.
a lot of this reminds me of Sean Boyle
Mm-hmm.
in just kind of his makeup and like a lot of what I've read about him. And Sean Boyle, for those that are in Tampa, he was just rehabbing with FCL. So, maybe we'll see the two of them together down in here in Tampa. Who knows?
Good. Now, in the 8th round, they finally went with a position player, Tyler Wilson from Grand Canyon University.
Hmm.
Utility guy, but he's a switch hitter.
Yeah.
Looks like he can play some different positions. Looks like, and his dad is a Yankees cross checker. You told me yesterday
Yeah.
that you actually know the kid's dad.
Yeah, I've met his father before at ahead of a game at the Steinbrenner Field because a lot of the scouts and cross checkers, because the home base is Tampa,
Mm-hmm.
they pass through Steinbrenner Field. They see how some of the guys that possibly they have gone on to select, how they're performing in the pros. So while part of it is a surprise that they've gone with someone like Wilson, part of it isn't because, well, one, his dad is a cross checker, and two
Right.
is Grand Canyon because they've drafted out of there before with Taylor Aguilar.
Right.
Um, but there's so much information that's all over the place on Wilson. Some say that he's DH or left fielder, then they drafted him as a first baseman, but then it was changed to outfielder. So, but you know what? It's who knows what he's going to play, what position he's going to play. But the other thing that is kind of intriguing is he's another prospect that was drafted out of Hamilton High School in Chandler, Arizona,
Right.
which two-way player Josh Cheatham and lefty starting pitcher Brock Selvage all came from. So they seem to go after that kind of. I don't know if they're all going after that school.
When
I
we were
don't.
doing that preview show with Bobby Malone, he talked about them going back there, that's a school that they really, another school they trust. They seem to have a
Yeah,
group of schools that they continually go back to. You're going to hear us say that a lot throughout this draft. And I think that this could be a pick that they can develop. It's obviously not going to be somebody who's going to fly through the system, but one of the quickest way to the majors now is being a utility player
and switch hitter.
and a switch hitter. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
and he's stronger on the left side too. From everything that I've seen, he's always batting from the left side. So I mean, they don't have enough lefty bats in the system.
no. And that was one thing that they were pretty heavy on, was getting some lefty bats, which I
Yeah,
was really excited about.
yeah, me too.
Now, in the 9th and 10th round, those were kind of kids that you expected them to save money on. Not much out there about them. Tanner Braun from Auburn. I I'm not crazy about the pick. I mean, what did you think of that pick?
Again, I'm not surprised because I've gone to Auburn before. That's so. Again, it's another Southern school that they like to visit. And again, he went to a JUCO in Florida, and I mentioned this later on in the draft from a kid who was drafted out of Northwest Florida, which we'll get to in a minute. But a good K through 9, 10.2. BB through 9 is 3.5. Can't complain about that. I mean, if he's a reliable starter, I mean, it's something that they can work with. But I would imagine they went a little under slot with Bauman.
Yeah, I would imagine as well. And the kid that they drafted out of William and Mary, I have no idea how you say that last name.
Joe
Joe.
De Los Santos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Outfielder, right-handed bat, good speed. Um, Kind of a Brett Gardner like profile is what I
That's
was reading.
that's the kind of way that I would kind of interpret it is Brett Gardner if he was a Puerto Rican, I guess, is kind of the I mean, because he has Puerto Rican makeup from what
Right.
it looks like on his Instagram. So Brett Gardner, if he was a Puerto Rican, Pipeline called him a power bat. He had 14 homers in 221 at bats, had a 330 batting average with an OPS over 14 doubles. I mean, you hit as many doubles as you hit home runs. I mean, come on. I'm so excited that he's probably the bat of the two, between Wilson and De Los Santos. I want
Right.
to see this kid on the bases.
Yeah,
I'm
I do
really
too.
excited for him.
And you know, moving into the 11th round, Mack Estrada.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
I am too. Junior
Yeah,
college kid, one of the top junior college kids in the nation.
yeah,
I think he was number 2 or number 3, if I remember correctly.
yeah, something like
What
that.
what do you think that we can expect from that? Beck Way comes to mind when you see his profile.
Yeah, and well, that was the thing is, I mentioned that he went to the same school, Northwest Florida State, as Beck Way. Like I saw that school come up, I said, "Oh, Beck Way went there."
Right.
And Way was dealt to the Royals in the Benintendi trade. But I'm watching him, and if there were to be a difference when Beck Way made his debut, he was hitting anywhere from 95, 97. I think he touched 98 in his debut.
Yeah.
Um, but the report that I found was he's low to mid 90s. Now,
Right.
to me, velo isn't everything. So,
Right.
I would rather see movement and control and command than 103. I'm
Absolutely.
always going to say that because arm health, lots of other reasons. But the slider is supposed to be his best pitch, and to me, that was what Beck Way's pitch was. It
Yeah, it
wasn't so much his
was
fastball, but it was his slider. And he's kind of tall and lanky like Beck Way as well.
very much so. 6'4", 220.
Yeah,
Now, moving into the 12th round, Brendan Jones from Kansas State, another outfielder. And
yeah.
this is a kid I'm kind of a little excited about. I'm not sure what he's going to be, but you look at that profile and it's something that the Yankees don't have a lot of in the system.
It's another speedster, kind of like De Los Santos. Is he was only
Right.
caught stealing twice in 41 attempts. Um, I mean, 39 steals in 41 attempts. Holy cow! And if he plays center field for the most part, you need that speed in Yankee Stadium center field.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I'm excited to see what he does when he hits the Tarpons at Steinbrenner Field. I don't know if the dimensions at the complex are the same. I would imagine they are.
Pretty close.
On field one, yeah, I would think it's
Yeah.
like 90% or 95 or something like that. But I know Steinbrenner is supposed to be an exact replica of Yankee Stadium. So I'm excited to see what he does when he hits the Tarpons. And that might not be too far off because it's FCL is ending in about a week or so. And
Right.
these kids otherwise have no place to go. And there's a lot of up in the air questions as to what's going to happen with these guys.
Right. And like we saw last year, they didn't have a pitcher from last year's draft class pitch until this year. I think we'll
Yeah,
see that with the pitchers,
I
but
would expect that. Yeah.
the position players, I wouldn't be surprised if they got in some games.
Yeah. I would expect the pitchers to throw maybe a little bit behind the scenes, bullpens just so that the Yankees know what they got. And then they
Right.
probably shut them down after that. But
Right.
yeah, the position players, I would expect we see a lot of promotions and that kind of thing, just so that they can make room for the new guys.
Now, the 13th round, Dylan Lewis out of Queens University in Charlotte. You see this kid and he can wear a uniform. I mean,
Yeah,
he's built. He
yeah.
is just a phenomenal athlete. The tools are a little rough. There definitely needs to be developed some, but there's a lot of talent there.
It's an interesting pick because Queen's University of Charlotte is not. I've never heard of it before. I don't know if you ever have.
I haven't either.
So I don't know if they're D2 or what they are, but it's an interesting pick. So they really had to kind of get in the weeds to go after Lewis, but the makeup, I love the makeup, like as a human. And
Uh-huh.
then the slash line, he hit 371 with a 1.174 OPS this past season. Um, but again, it's another outfielder, so there's not a whole lot of diversity so far in the draft.
No, and there's not a whole lot of diversity in the entire draft
Yeah,
for the Yankees. I mean, it's a very similar mold all the way through. Now, the kid that they took from Texas Tech, Austin Green, in the 14th round, that's an infielder, second
yeah.
baseman. Um, Looks like he's got good bat to ball skills. Uh, you know, had some home run power. I didn't know what to make of this pick.
Yeah, this is kind of one of those where we're as the picks go on, I'm having trouble finding stuff and finding video, and it's like, I'm finding some guy with a phone kind of thing. It's I don't know what to make of it either. You can only kind of read the stats and go off of that, but he naturally plays second base. We don't have a ton of naturally play second base kind of guys. I mean,
No,
Oswald, maybe.
maybe.
I mean, I don't. It's and then the Tarpons are. I don't even know who naturally plays second base because they're all over the place.
Yeah, they
And
send the three kids, Tejada, Arias,
yeah,
and Lombard, all the way around those three positions.
Riggio would be really the only guy that sticks out as the natural second baseman, and as far as and Ben Cowles, but he's been also been moving all over the place. So I don't really know what the Yankees are going to do with him because they definitely don't need shortstops.
No,
There's way too many shortstops right now. So it could be that maybe he moves to first base, maybe he moves to third base because the Yankees, they like doing stuff like that.
yeah, they do. And again, like we mentioned earlier, one of the quickest ways to the big leagues is being able to play multiple positions.
Yep.
So maybe this is a pick that they can move along. Maybe he turns into something. Maybe he turns into a trade chip. Who knows at this point in the draft? But if you can get him and get some value out of him, that's pretty good in the round that he came out of.
Yeah.
Marshall Toole, 15th round from Warford.
Wofford.
Wofford, excuse me.
And that's
Sorry.
Wofford isn't really. I don't know when the last time they drafted anybody out of Wofford. Wofford to me is a basketball school or a football school rather.
Right. Um,
Um, I don't know what to make of this one. I don't know about you.
I didn't either. 15 doubles, 10 triples, 9 home runs in 2024.
That
Um,
that's and that was really the one thing that stuck out to me is he had a lot of extra base hits.
and he had 43 stolen bases in this career there. I mean,
That was single
there's a lot.
season. He set a single season record at Wofford with 43.
And the other interesting
Yeah.
thing is he can catch a little bit.
And that was kind of a trend that I saw with a bunch of players is there was one that we just went by that was a pitcher. And I'm
Yeah,
like, what? So some of it makes sense. Like an outfielder I can understand because Spencer Jones was a pitcher previously as well. So
right,
like I can kind of understand that because you need an arm to be an outfielder.
right,
Um so like the catcher thing I get because you need to have a good arm. And look at Jesus Rodriguez. I mean, he's played left field. So
right.
that kind of makes sense. But when I was looking up his pop time was 2.32 seconds. And
That's
you need to have,
slow.
yeah, you guys are complaining about Trevino and no,
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 that's
yeah,
0.3 seconds slower than Trevino even.
yeah.
It's not a good pop time. Now, moving into the 16th round, Xavier Rivas from Ole Miss. This is a pick that I am really excited about.
And I'm on the other side of that. I don't know what they're doing with this. I don't know if they're kind of taking a shot in the dark in the 16th round or what.
Well, the thing is, he was expected to be their ace this year,
Yeah,
and then he had Tommy John surgery. Um, Good velocity, lots of strikeouts in 2023, just got cleared to start a throwing program, so he'll be back next year. It's a kid that probably would have gone in the top 5 rounds had he been healthy.
yeah.
And, they were able to get him in the 16th round, and he's probably going to sign. So I think it's somebody who you could see them develop. Maybe it works out, maybe he doesn't. But again, this is another left-hand pitcher, and we desperately need those in the system.
Yeah, I don't. So my hesitation is because of the fact that he just had Tommy John. We don't know what to expect when he returns. We
Right.
don't know if we're going to get that pitcher again. We might get a completely different pitcher, and he's a bust. And I think that's kind of why they took the chance on the 16th round instead of chasing him in a higher round. Because, like you said, he had probably rounds 3, 4, 5 kind of quality pitching in 2023. And he led the team in strikeouts, opposing batting average, innings pitched, wins, starts. Like you said, he was going to be the ace this year if he hadn't blown his UCL.
Right.
Um, and I mean, it sucks that he blew the UCL. It sucks for him because he could have had a really good year and he could have been a higher draft pick. But you know, I'm optimistic. I'm not going to say I don't want to be a Debbie Downer or anything, but I don't. I'm hesitant. I've seen this kind of thing a little bit too much. Just
But my idea is in the 16th round, if you can get a kid that was going to be in the top 5 rounds
oh yeah,
that late and sign him for 150K, that's not a bad thing to do.
no, not at all. No, I mean, I agree with you there. Yeah,
Yeah. Now, Jojo Jackson from Georgia State, switch hitter, left-handed thrower, another guy that has some big upside, very, very raw tools.
yeah.
What did you think of that pick?
I think this was a smart pick to go after. I think being in the Sun Belt really hurt him just because you're
Mm-hmm.
not playing against Alabama and the Gators and Florida State and like that kind of or Vanderbilt and that kind of quality team. So I think the Yankees, this is probably their steal of the draft.
I
Just
agree.
but at the same time, like I said before, being part of the Sun Belt, we don't know if those numbers are real, so to speak, when he gets into competition. He played in the draft league. I don't know how recently he played in the draft league. It says 2024. That could have been last week. I don't know. He put up pretty solid numbers in 71 at bats, 352 batting average, an over one OPS, 25 hits, 17 RBI. I mean, I can't complain about that because you're going to have mixed competition there.
Absolutely. And in this, like we keep saying, in the 17th round for
Yeah,
150K,
why not?
why not? Exactly.
Yeah.
Gus Hughes, High Point University, another pitcher, right hand. You think there's anything there?
Yeah, the stuff that the kind of things that I've kind of been taken apart with Hughes is, he helped lead them to their first chance at the tournament. That's kind of like the biggest thing was because High Point hadn't been to the playoffs before. That's where I think kind of where he sticks out. Um, he went to community college. Everybody's got to start
Mm-hmm.
somewhere. Um,
Absolutely.
and he's kind of a local kid as far as that's concerned. He grew up in North Carolina, went to college in North Carolina, K through 9 of 9.73. I mean, it's not bad, not terrible, not great, but big self starter of the week this past year. I'm excited. He went to UNC Charlotte, which is Josh. I'm going to butcher his name. Josh Masajewski, I think is how you pronounce his name. I think he was an alumnus there, 2018 10th round. So
Right.
again, they're going to a school that they've had history with. I don't think they've had history with High Point, but UNC Charlotte, they've been there before.
Absolutely, they have. And, again, this late in the draft, you try to find something that you think that you can steal, draft, and develop.
Yeah.
And that's another one of these kids. Brandon Decker, Oakland University pitcher. Again, I'm not sure what to make of this pick.
There's no video. There's like
There's nothing.
I'm lucky I got the one photo that I found, to be honest,
Yeah.
because Oakland University is again, they're what, a basketball school, I think, right? They're always in
Yes.
the Final Four tournament. Um, so there's not a lot on him. I mean, even like Appy League stuff, I couldn't find anything on from the Appy League. But he had a K through 9 under 10. He was named Relief Pitcher of the Year in the Horizon League in 2023, Pitcher of the Year 2024. So, I mean, it's another, we're going to take a shot at 19th round. What the hell? Why not?
Exactly. It's like a war record pick from last year, kind of late in the draft.
Yeah.
You see what you can get and go with it and see what you can turn it into. But
I love
moving into
the
the
I just want to jump in. I love that his college bio had the most random stat I've seen out of all of the picks. He led the high school bowling team with the most games won and the highest average score. That is completely irrelevant to baseball, but I love it.
That's something.
All right, go ahead with the 20th round.
Now, this is one of the picks that I think could be a steal of the draft. Cole Royer from
Yeah.
Pierce County High School in Georgia. This is a kid that he's a full ride to Georgia Tech. There's lots of command concerns, but the overall stuff is pretty high and the ceiling is incredibly high. This is probably a top 3 round pick in 2 or 3 years if he goes to college.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot of money to sign him away from Georgia Tech, but at 6'6", 190, he's kind of fits that big body that the Yankees go after, like in the Cam Schlittler mold. And you can see if they can get him, but what's it going to take to sign him away?
I don't know if money is so much a concern because I think the way that the Yankees approach it is, hey, look, you're signed by the Yankees. You can, I mean, you have a job already, basically, is kind of the way that I would pitch it is you don't have to worry about entering the draft in a couple of years. You're already here. You can become a pro next summer. And if that's kind of where he wants to go, then maybe that's what he does. Maybe money doesn't really mean everything to him if they sell, hey, you could be the next Garrett Cole. If you tell a kid that, and
a guy that jumps to mind that they did the same thing with last year's Danny Flatt Jr. And I know that you've seen him and liked him a lot.
Yeah.
He was another high school kid that they got late. If they could get this kid into their system with all of their tools that they have down at the gas station, maybe it would be better for him to sign with the Yankees regardless of money and develop in that program. Because one thing that you hear from all the draft kids, Carlos and I interviewed last year, is that they know that the Yankees can draft and develop pitching. And pitchers like coming to the Yankee system for that reason. If they can get this kid in this class, that would be a heck of a pick.
Yeah, that's kind of the point that I was trying to get across that you explained a lot better than I ever could. Because he was the only kid, I think, below like round 6 or something like that. Yeah, below round 6 that had an MLB profile. Which kind of speaks to the way that MLB thought of him. And they said that Royer is ultra predictable and he has a quick arm, adding that he could have upper 90s velocity. And right now he has a fastball that says low 90s, but he has a high spin breaking ball in the upper 70s that could give him a second plus offering. I mean, he puts on some muscle because he's 6'6". There's a lot of room that he could build a lot of muscle in. And he could be that. I mean, I don't want to keep going back to it, but he could be that Paul Skeens kind of a frame.
Absolutely.
With that triple digits. And once you start building in that command and, you build in that slider and you build in the curveball, that he both has the curveball and slider. You just need the command to kind of kick in. Man, he could be a hell of a steal if they can convince him to sign.
And again, it's a profile that the Yankees know well, that size, how to add muscle, how to add velocity to that frame. And they add velocity better than just about any other organization around baseball.
Yeah.
They can take him to low 90s to upper 90s, get him about 235, 240. I mean, that could be, like you said, a Paul Skeens type profile from the 20th round. And you're not going to find that very often.
Yeah, now granted, he's not going to pitch in the All-Star game next year like Skeens did, but
no,
I wouldn't have expected that out of a prep kid.
No. But that's the 20 rounds. Pete, do you want to give us some questions and we'll kind of walk through whatever the fans want to know?
Yes, sir. You guys hear me?
All right. Yep, gotcha.
All right, perfect. We got a couple of them here. Let me go back up. I think Hirsch had the first one. All right. He says, which pitcher that they drafted to you guys has the highest upside overall?
John?
Instant upside. I was going to say overall upside would probably be Royer, like we were just saying, because I think
Yeah.
overall Royer, if he ends up signing, is going to be it's like, again, it's MLB said that he's ultra projectable, so the Yankees can kind of do whatever they want. He's basically putty in their hands if he ends up signing. I want to say probably Bryce Cunningham is probably going to have off the go is probably going to have the best upside. Either him or probably Grayson Carter. And again, they're both Vandy kids.
Right. And I was going to go Grayson Carter and Bryce Cunningham were my two.
There you go.
I'm not 100% sure Royer signs, but those three are the highest ceilings that I see right now.
Yeah.
That kind of answers Connor's question too of most upside overall, not just pitcher related, because I would assume it's one of those guys you just mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, for pitcher, I would say Royer. Go ahead. What were you going to say, Dane?
That pitcher, I would say Royer and maybe, for the draft kid, the outfielder that we were talking about, Jojo Jackson. Go ahead, finish. Go ahead. No, Jojo Jackson, somebody that I think that they can develop. I really think that's an interesting profile, but that's just my thought.
I'm torn between Jojo Jackson and Joe De Los Santos. Again, both outfielders. If we're not going with a pitcher, with a position player, those are the two that I think have the biggest potential upside down the road.
I agree.
One of the other ones here was, let me see, from Alex, I believe. He goes, where did it go? Which pitcher they drafted has the best command or break in their pitches, and would they be considered for a closer or a starter?
Cunningham is the guy that's got the best off-speed stuff to me with that plus changeup.
And he's going to be a starter, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I think just about everybody that they drafted was a starter. I think they only drafted like 2 or 3 relievers, something like that.
Right. The other kid from Vanderbilt, Grayson Carter, was the other reliever.
Yeah.
I kind of forgot how this works, but I'm pretty sure I could almost answer this one myself, but I'll leave it up to you all because I think you probably say the same thing as me. Kyle Malay says, do y'all think any of these draft picks can be traded?
I'm not going to answer that.
Yeah, and I don't even think they're allowed to be at a certain period of time. So
for the first calendar year, you can't trade them.
Yeah,
correct. You can't do anything like that. So no point in discussing any trades with the draft picks. I got a question for you guys that I think is pretty interesting. Everybody obviously sees a lot of these young draft picks now come into the majors a lot quicker. If you guys looked across the board, who is one of the guys drafted that could help in any type of role the fastest with the Yankees?
Well, the fastest is going to be like 4 or 5 years, right?
In the Yankee system, probably.
In the Yankee system, yeah, maybe 8.
Don't get me going, Pete.
Right now is about 7.5 years.
Don't get me going, Pete.
The average.
For me, Grayson Carter is probably the kid that moves the fastest just because of the extreme velocity. If they can harness that, he could end up in a reliever role very, very quickly.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they need the relievers. I mean, you guys all see how much the bullpen is hurting right now. Not to say that we don't have a good system, with the relievers and that kind of thing, but down the road, I think he can offer the quickest relief, I guess you could say.
Another guy that's coming through that system that's quick is Eric Reiselman. And
yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, he started this year rehab in FCL, and he went straight to high A, basically.
Right. And he could go up further. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Question for you guys about the Yankees' #1 draft pick, Ben Hess. Is he a guy that you obviously they're probably going to hold on to him first as a starting pitcher, but I've actually seen a couple of people say it. There feels like a little Jabba Chamberlain there just based off the look.
Okay.
Is there a chance that you see him maybe being a guy that's just putting batters away, striking them out, that the Yankees kind of rush him to the majors as a reliever?
I would
I
say
don't see
go ahead.
I don't see that right away. You don't take a kid in the first round and make him a reliever right away. You want them to fail as a starter before you make them a reliever with a pick that high.
I would say while I agree with you, I wouldn't put anything out of the realm of possibility with the Yankees. If they see a role
Good
that he
point.
can fill, and if they see that he has his slider is the best slider they've seen in a decade, just as a what if, or his curveball is ridiculous, and that's getting guys out, and he can pump 99 for 2 or 3 innings instead of over 6 innings, then maybe that's what they end up doing with him, and they end up putting him as a reliever instead of a starter or even a long reliever. I mean, because if that's been thrown around with, making a heel, putting him in the bullpen as a long reliever, Heel's a starter right now. So, it's possible that that's what they end up doing with Ben Hess.
I could see it down the road, but I don't think that's the first move that they make with him. I think that they'll try to very hard to make him a starter.
I agree with that part though. Yeah.
A Man Dog says, would Jones be in top 5 in steals and batting average above 300? Why would he fall all the way down to the 12th round?
Conference he played in.
Yeah. And they don't draft from Kansas State. I don't even remember the last time they drafted out of Kansas State, to be honest. So I think a lot of it is, and now you can say the same thing. Why did Joe De Los Santos and William and Mary get drafted 10th? And this guy was 12th. But I mean, if you look at where a lot of the picks were, a lot of them were on the eastern side of the country.
Right.
Dane, can you explain? Maybe some people don't know. I know what you're talking about. Can you explain the conference thing a little bit there?
Yeah. Your SEC schools, your ACC schools, that's where your best competition is. That's where you face the highest level of college guys. When you go into the other conferences, it's not like going down a level, like going to D2, but it's not nearly as high as it is in the SEC and ACC.
And I guess a good comp with that would be, would you rather play the AL East or would you rather play the AL Central? Or the AL West, I guess, even.
Right.
Okay, question sides are done.
Okay. Do we think that there's any kids that they're not going to be able to sign?
I don't know. I mean, like you and I were going back and forth on, I think that the 20th round prep kid, I think he's going to be hard to sign. Again, I think if they give him the promise of, hey, you're a Yankee, you got a job now, we can show you everything. I don't want to go to Aladdin, we can show you the world kind of thing. But, kind of going along those lines, I think they may be able to convince him. That would be the one question. But like the lower kids, Brandon Decker out of Oakland, Michigan, I don't think he's going to get a better offer than 19th round. Even if he were to go UDFA, which, by the way, we don't even know who's signing UDFA. That'll be a whole nother can of worms that we'll get to down the road. So, it's possible that they sign even more gems out of the UDFA portion.
Right. And they have done very well in the undrafted free agents market the last couple of years. So that's something always to look out for with the Yankees.
And there was that one kid that I found that I mentioned this morning that they signed out of Puerto Rico, this catcher that was the fifth best prospect in Puerto Rico, and Perfect Game gave him a 9.5 out of 10. That I'm really excited to see, because if they got Wilson Rodriguez as a draft pick last year, he's not doing well, but
right.
Puerto Rico is a hotbed of talent. I mean, look at all the good catchers that have come out of Puerto Rico.
Yeah. They have done well in that aspect. Who was the kid, the lefty that they got last year that
Wilson Rodriguez is probably what you're thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's now, batting. I just went to go look at his stats this morning. He's batting 150, I think.
Oh.
So yeah. But last year when I saw him, he looked really good. He caught my attention, and not so much this year.
Now, since we have a few minutes left, you're down in the FCL. You see those kids all the time. There hasn't been much news. You want to tell us about what's going on down there a little bit?
Yeah, so I haven't looked at the standings recently. They were kind of in line to win the division. I thought that was gonna have been done and over with because the Marlins had clinched already.
Right.
Um, their season ends on the 25th, which is a week from tomorrow. And that's about a month earlier than it usually is, just because of how early it started. So
Right.
again, that goes to what I was speaking to earlier, where just because their season ends so soon, you're probably going to see some of the especially the position players, since they don't have too many. Some of those guys should make the Tarpons, and hopefully you see guys like Willie Montero and Jackson Castillo go up to high A. Um, but I don't know if you're going to start seeing like a Brandon Maella. He's hurt right now, from if I remember correctly. I don't
Yeah.
know if he's going to go to the Tarpons or if they're going to put the draft kids there, because the Yankees do whatever they want to do. Like any other team, they do whatever they feel is best for their kids. Um, but like the guy that I keep coming back to is Eglin Perez. Like he's just so impressive, and I know Carlos kind of talks about these DSL kids. There's so many names. I can't remember them
Yeah.
all, but he wasn't really one on my radar so much.
Right. He
Um,
popped up for us when he popped at the number 15 on the Baseball America list, or one of the lists this spring. And Los got some video of him. And we knew he was a defensive specialist, but that
yeah,
bat is a lot better than we have thought.
that's exactly the takeaway that I have with him is holy cow, that bat is just so much fun. A lot of power, a lot of pop. And he's pretty quick for a catcher. That was another
Yeah.
thing that really surprised me. He's pretty quick for a catcher.
Another kid down there is Uglith Urena.
Yeah, Englith
That
Urania is. I haven't seen him like because to be honest, just because of the way things have gone
right,
with my health, I haven't caught a lot of FCL games. So I've never actually seen him play in person. It just so happens that every time I go, he's not the catcher and Edwin Perez is the catcher, which is why I have so many impressions on Perez. But yeah, the video that Los has shown me and the stuff that I've seen on Instagram has been very impressive. And all the data nerds are drooling over him like they were with John Cruz last year.
absolutely. Because the strikeout rate's about 12%, the walk rate's about 16%. The bat speed is one of the best in the system already. It's right up there with Augustine Ramirez.
Yeah.
And
So
the
I don't.
power is unreal.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, you can only tell so much off a video because sometimes you have to really give the eye test, get a couple different angles that the video can't really provide, just to kind of look at the
Right,
mechanics and all that. Um, I'm hoping to go to an FCL game soon. I mean, I got to get there before the season's over,
right.
just so that I can get another good look on these guys before end of the year, because there's not enough room to move all these guys over to the Tarpons before the season ends, because there's not enough room in the system to move all these guys around.
Now, two guys that we would really wanted to see in low A this year, Carlos Legrande and Henry Lalonde. I
Yep.
know they're just coming back from injury. Do you expect them to go to Tampa?
I don't know, because the pitching staff has been kind of hot and cold. You kind of don't know what to expect aside from Cade Smith. I think I have the right Cade. I think Smith is
Yes.
the starter and Austin's the reliever.
Right.
Um, Cade Smith would probably be the one guy that I would expect gets promoted, because there should be a good amount of promotions coming up. Um, Friday, I think, is when the season returns. So I would expect now. I'm going to compare them to the Phillies just because that's the other team that's down here for me.
Right.
The Phillies basically annihilated the entire low A system, or their low A team, and everybody got promoted. So it's the entire system just basically got all promoted one level.
Right.
The Yankees aren't that aggressive. Boy, do I wish they were, but they aren't. Um, I know you feel the same way, and I know Los feels the
Oh,
same way.
yeah. Absolutely. I wish that they were far more aggressive. Now, jumping into two of the position players there, Roderick Arias is playing so much better this last month, hitting close to 300.
I was going to say the bat. Yes, the glove between him and Lombard,
Oh,
the bat has come around a lot for both of them. That glove leaves a lot left to be desired. It's
on both of them.
I'm really worried about that glove. Now, granted, it's still early, it's still low A, there's still a lot of time, but the bat can come around. You can teach the bat. I don't know how much of the glove you can teach. And it's not so much, I hate to say it this way, but it's the Glaber kind of plays. A
Right.
lot of you guys know what I'm talking about. It's
Right.
you didn't put your glove down all the way to the ground, so you let the ball go through. You went to go flip it to the second baseman and you flipped it over to the first baseman instead, kind of thing.
Right.
You know, it's
It's the plays that they should make that they don't, and
yeah,
the plays, the harder plays they seem to make.
exactly.
The one infielder there that I've been really impressed with is Tejada. He has looked like the best of the three on both sides of the ball so far this
And
year.
I think he's got another injury. I don't know if he ended up on the IL. Um, I'll have to follow up with that. But last time I saw him play, he was running to first base, and I think he like twisted his ankle or twisted his knee or something along those lines, and it did not look like a pretty injury. So I'm hoping he's okay. I'm hoping he's back to being an active player when the season
Yeah.
gets going again in on Friday. Because yeah, he was looking like he deserved to be in high A, and it was going to be another why aren't you getting promoted like a Jared Serna kind of thing last year.
That still drives me nuts about Cerna. He should be higher than where he
He
is.
should be in Double A. Yeah.
He absolutely should be. Drives me nuts. Any other kids at Tampa that you think should go up?
I don't know about getting promoted, so to speak. Hans Montero's been pretty impressive. You know, just kind of showing both the glove and the bat. You know, they've been looking pretty good. Nothing spectacular. You know, I don't really expect a ton out of Hans Montero. Willie Montero's been really impressive though. I didn't really expect the world out of Willie. But he's been really kicking ass this past couple months.
And he was led the team in batting average last year and hits in the FCL.
Yeah, but I didn't
Uh,
expect this kind of season out of him.
really?
Yeah, I really didn't because so a good comparison that I like to use is Phyllis Nagase is
Okay.
he hit like 400 or something like that in FCL and he got to Tampa and he wasn't even hitting the Mendoza line.
Right.
So, I kind of temper my expectations with FCL, because the competition isn't the same as what it is in low A because it's the Blue Jays, the Phillies, the Tigers over and over and over again. So they see the same teams, and that's kind of the problem that I noticed when they got to the playoffs last year is they played the Pirates, which again, that's a team they're going to face with Tampa, is they're going to
Right.
face Bradenton. They faced the Pirates, and they made the Pirates made the Yankees look silly because that wasn't the kind of competition they faced. If you look at
Right.
the Pirates division, they play like five or six teams, so they get that a little bit of diversity that the Yankees and the rest of the division don't get.
One other kid before we get out of here, Abraham Ramirez. What are your thoughts on him? He's a little old for the level, but he's been tearing the cover off the ball all year.
I don't know. Now, I know we were talking about the trade a little bit. I don't really want to get into that kind of thing, but I wouldn't be surprised if he were one of the kind of names that they give up. Think of like a Kiner Delgado.
Yeah.
They gave up Kiner Delgado for JT Brubaker, and a lot of us were saying, "What the heck are you doing? You don't. What are you doing getting JT Brubaker?" But they don't really have a place for him. I don't know about Ramirez, so to speak, but I don't know. I mean, he feels like the kind of kid that, they're just kind of putting him out there and they're just trying to expose to see what they can get out of him. And it's possible that, maybe they call him up to Tampa just to kind of expose him a little bit more instead of just because I don't know, a lot of us we don't know what's going to happen after the FCL season ends. Are they going to do instructs? Are they going to do like intra squads? Like we don't know. So I
It's
don't
a
know.
whole new thing this year.
Yeah, we don't know what they're going to do. So we don't know if it's going to be closed, if it's going to be open to like media and scouts, whatever. Anyways, if they promote him, I think that'll kind of be a sign that they're trying to expose him to scouts.
Right.
Um, I really like what he does. I mean, a lot of that team I really like. It's the same as what we saw last year, though. That team kind of top to bottom is a solid team.
Yeah, it
And
is.
there's nothing not to like. There's a couple pitchers, but again, a lot of these are Caribbean kids. They don't have the experience. They don't have the innings. Like basically everybody, but like 19 out of the 20 kids that got drafted have more experience than these international kids.
Yeah, they do.
So you temper your expectations on the international kids, and that's what makes, like you were saying before, Lagrange and Lalane really impressive because they don't have that experience, but they're at a completely different level from basically everybody else on the pitching staff.
Absolutely. Those two are so much further ahead at the age. And when you look at the size, the consistent, repeatable mechanics, the velocity, Lalane's got really good control. Lagrange's got incredible pitch mix. I mean, it's just those two are some of the most impressive young kids I've seen in a long time.
And I think if it weren't for the injuries, I think this time next year, they might have been in high A or double A.
Absolutely.
Because I know the Yankees are high on both of them. That's without a doubt.
Yes.
But I think if it weren't for the injuries, they would have been in Tampa by now. In low A Tampa, that is. And then next year they would have started in Hudson Valley.
Yeah.
There's really nothing that's stopping them. Like the command, the velo, like all that stuff is solid with these kids. There's really nothing that I'm concerned about.
No, Lalane, especially because he has the velocity and the command, and then that ability to go 25 miles an hour difference between his changeup and his fastball. You just don't see that from a kid at 19 years old.
The only thing with Alane, if I were to have a negative, is he doesn't have the repeatability. So the arm slot, like the delivery, I guess you could say, isn't repeatable pitch after pitch. It differs a little bit, and I don't know if that's he's throwing a fastball and he's throwing a changeup, but then he's throwing a slider and he's throwing a fastball and, just kind of going back and forth. Because some pitchers are like that, where depending on the pitch, they have a different arm slot.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you guys for all stopping by the Draft Review Show. John and I will be back for the Farm Report this week and check into that. Thank you guys so much.
Top 10 radar, yeah, we on your radar. Never miss, dog, and that's on occasion. Yeah, we on your radar. Yeah. Hey, look, top floor, lifestyle, chef and boy, I'm cooking up. Way too high, ain't coming down, you see me if you looking up. I don't really talk too much, I show them run the numbers up. Lucky that I'm showing up, I'm going off, they know what's up. Wrist too silly, yeah, numbers crack the billy. Yeah, don't need no dilly, I'm too fresh, I feel like really, yeah. Feel the duffels up the sign, I need a million. I'm about to take off, and I know that I'm on they radar. Top 10